Good morning, it's Louis from the Outdoor Manual YouTube channel, and today back in North Wales, and I've got these two insulated jackets that we're going to be talking about today. We've got synthetic one, this one's a Rab, it's been put through the pacer this many years, and then this is a Montbell down jacket. Most people assume that these down jackets are much better than the synthetic ones as an absolute. That's just not the case, especially in the UK conditions. The wrong jacket can leave you cold, wet and worse off than if you weren't wearing a jacket. So we're going to be going through the differences between these two today. Now of course down is much more lightweight. To be fair, this is a lightweight coat, a lightweight down jacket, and it's obviously going to be much lighter than this Rab synthetic one. However, of course, every single product has its pros and cons, and I'm going to be going through that today. As you can probably hear, it's dead windy today in Snowdonia. Yeah. We're at the foot of Cribgark. We'll be tackling that. Obviously, conditions dependent, it should be okay. Yeah, it's a bit windy, but you know, when is it not windy? So, what is down? Well, down is goose feathers, duck feathers, and it's used in insulated jackets because it has excellent warmth factor for the weight. Now, a synthetic insulated jacket probably going to be made out of polyester or some man-made fibre. Obviously they both have their attributes. A down jacket itself will weigh much lighter for the same warmth of an insulated jacket. However, insulated jackets on the whole are much cheaper, much more accessible. Like the ones I've got for an example today, the Montbell jacket, like 250 quid, and it doesn't even have a hood. Whereas a Rab, I think I got that for like 100 quid or something like that a couple of years ago. So I noticed while I was editing the video, I didn't really go into the nitty gritty of what down is measured in. So ultimately there's a universal scale called fill power. And what fill power effectively measures is the quality of the down. So how much loft do you get per gram out of your coat? And they say grams, but it's actually measured in cubic inches per ounce of down. So it's an American system. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it because it kind of goes over the inside of this video. However, a higher number on the fill power equals more loft and better quality down. Now, a synthetic and a down jacket both work the same way. Is they trap air next to your body and create a warm layer effectively using the fibres or the feathers within the coat. Now a synthetic jacket also aims to retain its structure and the fibrous like material within it even when it's wet or damp. I'll get onto that later with a bit of differences between the two, but that's going to be a major difference, is the ability to keep you warm when it's wet. So, a bit technical up here. So, as I was saying, a down jacket, once it gets wet, loses all warmth, like factor, if you want to call it that. Synthetic jacket holds it a bit more because obviously polyester or the fibres that they're using isn't really, look at this here, bit of climbing, it isn't really like a porous material, so you can get away with a bit more rough and tough with it. But yeah, down jacket is quite, as soon as it gets wet, it's kind of game over. So on the whole, down provides more warmth for less weight, and you can also compress a down jacket really far. It'll still retain its like structure once you take it out and give it a bit of air, give it a bit of a breather. So just one thing to consider, isn't it? Like if you've not got a lot of space in your pack, you're doing a bit of wild camping and whatnot, a down jacket might be best. However, a synthetic jacket is a bit more forgiving. Obviously it doesn't compress the same, it weighs more for the same warmth, but as I was saying, the ability for a synthetic jacket to get a bit wet and still retain its like warming properties is like a trade-off for the weight. So something a bit more robust, it's similar to what I was saying with the hiking boot in the last video. Something a bit more robust might offer you a bit more protection as such in horrible weather, so you know, just consider that. But yeah, as I was saying, down jacket equals lighter, synthetic jacket equals heavier, but the down jacket is more efficient. The synthetic jacket is much more forgiving in rubbish conditions. Then when it comes to drying your gear, you've got to wait a whole lot longer for your goose down or your duck down, whichever, or either way, your feathered down jacket is going to take much longer to dry than your synthetic one, just because of the nature of the product and the nature of the fibres that they use. Polyester, like if you compare a polyester t-shirt to, say, I don't know, merino wool, or even a cotton t-shirt, like it's the fastest drying because it doesn't absorb as much water. That being said, both jackets are still going to take a long time to dry, so you know, just factor that in. You need to keep your jackets dry, and then it will retain its warming factor. Look at the state of that. Pretty technical, going all the way up and over to Snowdon. The down jacket is the most efficient option in terms of keeping you warm for the weight, but obviously that comes as a detriment when it comes to breathability. So down jacket is going to keep you warmer for much longer, it's just not very breathable. It's just going to cause you to sweat. I had it last weekend where I was just completely drenched in the inside of my jacket, and it wasn't even that warm. Just the down jacket is that efficient that it keeps your heat in, and yeah, you just turn into a bit of a sweaty mess, especially when you're walking. Obviously if you're in like sub-zero conditions or something like that, then yeah, you maybe want a down jacket underneath your shell, but on the whole, a synthetic jacket is much more breathable. So just bear that in mind. You know, if you're doing a massive trek, or it's cold when you set off and you know you're going to overheat, well, that's what happens to me. You've just got to kind of play the conditions again. The place where a down jacket does kind of come into its own is camping. You've done the hard slog, you've got up to, I don't know, top of the hill, maybe down there, 2 decent camping spots by the looks of it. You set your tent up, you stop moving, you stop generating your own body heat, and so now you need to retain your warmth. Maybe you've put your tent up, cooking a bit of food. A down jacket is going to offer more warmth and keep you warmer than that of a synthetic counterpart of like a similar weight. So, you know, right, durability. Obviously you want your gear to last as long as possible. A down jacket is going to last you many years, but you have to look after it. You can't keep them compressed and scrunched for an extended amount of time because it'll lose its loft over time. And a synthetic jacket, it's probably going to like give you a bit more leeway in terms of wear and tear, and you know, just putting it through its paces. I like to make the comparison or the analogy. Think about a down jacket as a German car. As long as you keep on top of the maintenance, you look after it, you want to nurse it, it's going to be absolutely perfect every single time you come to use it. A synthetic jacket, think of it as a Japanese car. They're over-engineered to the point where they know people aren't going to take care of them properly, so there's just much more leeway in terms of storing it and managing it correctly. I alluded to the price at the start of the video, and a good down jacket is going to set you back more than that of a synthetic jacket. You know, goose feather, duck feather, it's expensive, especially for quality. But I guess if you spend a decent bit of money, it's going to save you money in the long term. Now, a synthetic jacket, you can get a synthetic like bubble down jacket for about 60 quid. So now you can get an OEX one, they're all right. You can get proper insulated, like thick jackets for like 400 quid as well. So obviously finding a happy medium, isn't it? Like, I guess if you're wanting to buy a bloody Everest Summit suit, you're going to be spending thousands of pounds. Whereas if you're just buying like an everyday layer, you don't have to spend that much money. Yeah, so on the whole, the down jacket is going to be more expensive than the synthetic jacket. So obviously there's a lot of options out there. You can get blends, you can get like half, I don't know, polyester, half goose down. But of course, you're sacrificing on the down qualities and also sacrificing on the synthetic qualities. So maybe it's just best to have one of each instead of, you know, mixing them up, because they're both good for different ordeals. So, are these jackets sustainable? Short answer is neither of them really are, to be honest. Obviously you've got Goose down, kind of says it in the name, it's like an animal product, and obviously it does involve the killing of animals to produce the clothing. However, you can get responsibly sourced goose, whereas I think most of the major brands are responsibly sourced, but you just need to be aware if that is kind of a buying factor for yourself. If you think about synthetics, it's all produced by oil, it's all petroleum, like that obviously isn't going to be the most sustainable thing in the world. You can get recycled fibres, and there's a couple of companies that do that, but ultimately, like, it's not going to biodegrade, is it? Like, if you chuck a down jacket in a landfill, I mean, maybe most of it will degrade, if not some of it. Obviously, when you're considering a synthetic jacket, if you chuck that in a landfill, it's going to be there in the next 1,000 years or whatever the statistic is. But either way, it's way more harsh on the environment than a down jacket. But of course, animal factors and whatnot, if that's a thing for you, like, you do need to consider that. So UK conditions, well, it's wet, moist, misty. I mean, unless you get a day like today, it's quite nice, to be fair. You're kind of just opening yourself up to being wet. So is an actual down jacket going to be ideal? Most of the time not. So a synthetic is going to be much more suited to the UK conditions on the whole, because it's just more forgiving in the wet than that of a down jacket. Obviously, if it's just cold and it's arid, it's like dry cold, which we don't get a lot of, to be honest. I mean, you might get a few days over winter, but a lot of the times it's still quite humid. Then a down jacket is going to work perfectly as well. It's like you've got to play the conditions for the gear that you're buying. You just need to take that into consideration. Look at that. Unreal. So, some common misconceptions, I guess. Everybody thinks that down is like the be all and end all of keeping yourself warm, like you need to have a down jacket in your pack for when it gets cold. But what happens when you get wet? That coat is going to completely lose all of its warming factors, and then you're just going to be left with a soggy, like screwed up piece of fabric in your bag, and it's just not ideal for most of the time in the UK. I mean, synthetics on the whole, they hold their own. They do hold their own in the UK conditions, so just be aware. So people associate synthetics with being low quality. It's just not the case anymore at all. So back in the day, maybe before I was born, a synthetic coat would have just been, I don't know, yeah, poor quality. But like I said earlier in the video, people are taking synthetic coats up to the top of Everest as like a prime piece of equipment. So if you buy a decent bit of kit, it's obviously going to be durable and like worthwhile to buy. So which is best for whichever activity that you're doing? So down jacket keeps you very warm, it's not very breathable, and it's not very great when it gets wet. That kind of sums up a camping situation, doesn't it? So you've done the hard graft, you've got up the hill, you're setting your tent up, it's freezing, it's decent weather, and yeah, that's really when a down jacket is going to come into play. So a synthetic jacket, going to keep you warm. It's a bit better at keeping the wet out than the down jacket. It's a bit better at wicking away the sweat when you're walking, when you're a bit more active. It's going to be better for wearing when you're on the trail and you just need something a bit more than your shell. So what's the verdict on this? There's no clear-cut winners. It all depends on where you hike and how you hike and what you like to do. Obviously the synthetic jacket is just going to be way more versatile. You're going to be able to get more use out of it. You're going to be able to take it on more trips than the down jacket. But the argument is there for the down jacket when conditions apply. Obviously it's a bit more targeted in the conditions that you can use it, but I personally quite like the feel of a down jacket rather than a synthetic one. I just like how light it is on my body in comparison to a synthetic counterpart. But you know, realistically, we live in the UK, the weather's terrible most of the time, it's unpredictable, it's always changing. A synthetic jacket is probably going to be the all-rounder, to be honest. Obviously you'd rather have both in your arsenal overall and be able to interchange which one you use it for if there's specific cases, like, you know, backpacking, camping, probably wanting the down jacket if it's decent weather. However, if you were to just buy one, you're probably going to get more use and more value out of the synthetic jacket because it's just more forgiving overall. But let me know what you think. Do you use a down jacket or do you use a synthetic one? Has it ever gone completely horribly wrong as well in bad weather? Have you ever been caught with the wrong type of jacket and you've just been sodden to the bone? I know I have. Not so much on a hike or a camp, but definitely been caught in a down jacket when I should have been wearing a shell at the very least. But yeah, you know, let me know what you think, because this video is basically based off my own kind of lived experience, and so it'd be good to get a bit of a conversation going about other people's experiences, what they might think. So yeah, put that in the comments and yeah, let's have the debate.